there, I'm Tommy McFly, and today we're taking you on a trip to the place known as the nation's summer capital. Located just 2 hours from DC, it attracts millions every year, many from our area. It has one of the most bustling queer communities in the country. So we wanted to know, how did a small conservative city that started out as a Methodist camp become a safe place for queer people? It's quite the journey. Come along as we explore the road to Rehoboth. Pulling onto Rehoboth Avenue, it's easy to see the lore of this seaside community.
Rehoboth is magical and wonderful and special.
Waves crashing along a 1.5 mile beach.
It's a wonderful beach town with all those funky things.
A magnificent boardwalk, lined with charming restaurants and shops.
It was like a paradise in the middle of nowhere.
But in case you didn't already know, this is no ordinary summer tale.
We have a uniqueness, we have a thriving and visible gay presence here in town, and that's part of the fabric of Rehoboth Beach.
And his city, now known for its diversity and inclusion, comes with a complicated history many might not have known about until now.
My name is James T. Sears.
In his new book, Queering Rehoboth Beach, James Sears explores that history.
The modern queering of Rehoboth really began in the mid-1970s.
When many gay men and lesbians started to first hear rumblings about a small beach resort with a small gay presence, drawing visitors, many of them closeted from DC, New York, and Philadelphia. Weekend house parties full of predominantly gay men.
I mean, there were so many houses, and the parties just got more and more extravagant. You know, every house trying to outdo the others.
Way before social media, when the best way to find each other was through a printed beach book listing addresses of where people stayed.
It wasn't just a few gay people coming to town, it was a lot of gay people.
Crowds flocked to the gay dance club near town called the Renegade. When the Renegade opened, that was a shift.
That was a shift because it was major.
Many gay-owned businesses followed, alongside the ice cream stands and fried seafood shops on the main strip. The back porch very instrumental in the queer community in Rehoboth.
She had the first gay connection here that were visible and open for gays.
But no restaurant likely had a bigger impact on this burgeoning community than a place called the Blue Moon.
A little cutting edge, which was different for this town, palate challenging, artistically oriented. By the time we actually opened the doors, it was way more than that.
In 1981, New Yorker Joyce Felton and her friend Victor Presapia transformed this Sears Craftsman home on Baltimore Avenue into something never before seen here.
We hadn't even opened yet, and Victor and I got calls into the mayor's office. Over my dead body, will there be a gay restaurant in my town? And I mean, it was so, the line in the sand was, drawn at that moment.
Despite the pushback, the Blue Moon opened to rave reviews and helped put Rehoboth Beach on the culinary scene, attracting both gay and straight customers.
You know, it was the first time gay life, erupted in Rehoboth.
That's when the town began to freak out.
Ugly epithets being, screamed, and, ripe tomatoes being thrown at the bar, and lit firecrackers, and beer cans thrown through the window.
Well, really brought things to a boil. They formed a corporation to open something called the Strand.
Well, it was supposed to be a nightclub, open at midnight and stay open till 6.
What happened?
Well, I never got a liquor license.
Seems important for a club. And the battle over the city's very identity was brewing.
You cannot decouple what was going on in Rehoboth in the 1980s with what was going on nationally, internationally, with the emergence of HIV and AIDS.
I think people were just afraid. They were afraid, and this was the way that they empowered themselves, by shutting down what was producing their fear.
There was a lot of animosity. There was a sticker that had come out in Rehoboth that said, "Keep Rehoboth a family town." I'm Murray Archibald, and I am retired founder of Camp Rehoboth. Camp Rehoboth is a gay and lesbian community center and organization that was originally created to develop a positive attitude and to bring people together in the community.
To combat the divisiveness, Murray and his husband Steve Elkins created the nonprofit CAMP, Create a More Positive Rehoboth.
living side by side, neighbor to neighbor, you know, that's how you change the world.
One of the most important things that I think Camp Rehoboth did was create a better relationship between the gay community and the administration, the police, the mayor.
The philosophy of camp: find common ground. And they did.
There was this hostility between neighbors and the homeowners association and the town and police. When Camp Rehoboth was founded, that, I think, started the turning point.
Entering the public square means you have to listen, you have to have dialogue, you have to be willing to communicate, and you have to have the willingness to be transformed in your own ideas.
Camp also started sensitivity training with police, something that continues today.
The sensitivity training is on an annual basis.
It just kind of started easing away as we went along, and as we got to know people, you know, you could begin to see the difference.
They just got to know them. And I think it's extremely powerful just getting to know someone and realizing maybe we're more alike than different. And I think that really set the stage for where we are today with this.
There's something to be said for serendipity. When you see, you know, people walking, you know, hand in hand, rainbow flags, you know, like snapping in the wind. We did that. We helped do that. We were, you know, we were part of this. And no one can ever take that from me.
Rehoboth Beach actually started as a Methodist meeting camp at the end of the 19th century, but accounts of queer people go back more than 100 years. If you want to step into history, a great place to start, the Rehoboth Beach Historical Society and Museum. So you went on a deep dive into queer history in Delaware.
I went as far back as possible, finding newspaper articles of gender non-conforming folks being arrested. This is in the late 1800s. My name is Carol Ann Deal, the lead researcher on the Delaware's LGBTQ+ community digital and research engagement project.
What jumped off the pages for you?
I was shocked to see how early it was known that there were gay people coming to Rehoboth. It was in like the 1930s and 40s. There was a DuPont heiress named Louisa d'Andelot Carpenter, and she had a family beach house down here in Rehoboth. There were multiple articles about the fancy parties that Louisa held at the Carpenter Mansion, which was fondly known as the Shell House.
And all kinds of gay people from Hollywood and Broadway would come and party at her house.
My favorite two people that I learned about from the entire state of Delaware's queer history were Anita Marchant and her partner Muriel Crawford.
The two of them fell in love when they were working at a law firm in D.C.
Local writer and activist Faye Jacobs knew the couple and the discrimination they faced when first coming to Rehoboth in the 1940s.
They couldn't get a mortgage because no one would give a mortgage to two women. And finally they found a bank that would. They were still really, really closeted. They would walk down the street and maybe see another young couple who was gay, and they'd say, shh, don't say anything. And they would call them shushes.
But the couple eventually became the toast of the town, throwing fancy salon parties on the front porch of their Laurel Street home.
They would drink whiskey and discuss cultural things. But the best part about this story is that apparently it wasn't just queer people that came. It was all members of the community that wanted to be a part of this discussion.
Every Saturday night, and Anita and Muriel themselves, even when they were in their 90s, they would insist on going in and coming out with trays of hors d'oeuvres for everybody.
By the late 50s, early 60s, you start to see the first gay tolerant establishments, restaurants such as the Pink Pony.
It was known as sort of a mixed bar, meaning again that if you were gay, you were welcome, although oftentimes they charged you more than they did the straight customers.
Author James Sears says the opening of the Bay Bridge in the 1950s changed everything for Rehoboth Beach, making this once secret spot more accessible to everyone who had heard about it.
Rehoboth became an appealing place for closeted people who were in the government or elsewhere who wanted to relax and didn't want prying eyes around them.
It's one of those special places that's been able to proliferate and grow very quietly.
And And you can read all of Carol Ann's groundbreaking research at history.delaware.gov. When the road to Rehoboth returns, discovering Poodle Beach.
All of a sudden, it just blossomed into this huge little community down there.
You can't have Rehoboth without the beach. And no patch of sand is more cemented into queer history than the end of the boardwalk. Welcome to Poodle Beach. From the moment the summer heat kicks in, it's tough to find a spot on this patch of sand.
You go there and you see all these guys walking around in these Speedos.
Poodle Beach has been around since the 80s.
It's at the end of the boardwalk at appropriately Queen Street.
Local fixture Faye Jacobs started coming here more than 30 years ago and chronicled her adventures in books and articles, including the origins of Poodle Beach.
It started because the Carpenter House was on the other side of the dunes.
Historians point out that Carpenter Beach, up closer to Dewey, was the first gay beach. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, gay people could socialize there, away from other vacationers. But according to Faye, one day, some guys just could not schlep their beach chairs past the boardwalk anymore.
They tromped over the dunes, and they went and got their Coke and a hamburger, and they thought, why are we on the beach all the way over here, opposite over the dunes? Let's just camp here.
Poodle Beach wasn't the only spot to attract the queer community.
They called it Whiskey Beach. And this is actually a spot in Cape Henlopen State Park, now known as Gordon's Pond. Apparently some of the lesbians preferred to go out to Whiskey Beach, where you could drink publicly, not legally, of course, and bring your dogs and hang out all day.
But one mystery remains. Just how did Poodle Beach get its name?
Nobody can tell you for sure why. There were men with two white poodles. That it could have been a cute, funny, even possibly derogatory name for the gay community. Nobody really knows.
One thing's for sure, Poodle Beach has secured its place in queer history here.
I said, you know, the season's over, let's do drag volleyball.
One of the most unique beach battles, the annual Labor Day drag volleyball game, first organized by Forest Park.
First year we were just women's swimsuits and a hat. Then there was Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, there was French maids, there was poodle skirts, and I made all the costumes for 10 years. Then after 10 years, I said, I can't do this. Everybody's getting bigger and bigger.
Nobody had any idea that it was going to grow into this extravaganza that it turned out to be.
And they say there was only one time they got pushback from the town.
We kind of bowed to some pressure in 1990 because there was a big movement called, you know, Keep Rehoboth a Family Town. And there are all these posters about it. And I think we regretted it very soon. And because we thought, you know, later I remember saying, well, Rehoboth is a family town. And these guys are my family. So I think from then on, we never looked back.
Each year, the crowds grew larger and larger.
One year, the local paper said there were over 2,000 people at the game.
And lasting almost 30 years, only ending because of the pandemic.
It's really about the friendships that were formed after that. We should always honor these places and even events like drag volleyball, which at the time seemed silly or whatever, but they opened the doors for the next generation to go through with confidence.
Efforts are currently underway to put a Delaware historical marker here at Poodle Beach to honor its place in queer history. Next up on our road to Rehoboth, what lies ahead for this unique community?
How are we fostering the next generation to still want to come here and keep it this wonderful, fun place that we've had?
If you ask around, and we have, this street is likely considered the hub of the queer community. Baltimore Avenue has a huge place in history and is still really important today. But many wonder what the future holds.
I remember when I first started here in the off season, there would be like 1 or 2 bars open. The streets were empty.
It's only 1 hour before dinner service and things are bustling at the Blue Moon. That's because Rehoboth Beach has morphed into a year-round destination for locals and visitors.
Tim is polishing glasses for our Tasting Tuesday.
Tim Reagan frequented the Blue Moon in his 20s and now he owns it.
The number of people who have decided to move and retire here is definitely increased.
You are currently in the dressing room of the Blue Moon. I am Charles Bounds, AKA Roxy Overbrook. Yeah.
Roxy has performed here for 20 years.
It's not just weekends that are busy. It's, I'm having a show on a Tuesday. Yeah.
There is such a spotlight on drag these days. How do you feel about Rehoboth being kind of a bubble and being so accepting of it?
I'm just walking down the street in drag, and like for a second I'll pause and I'll be like, you're walking down the street in the evening in drag by yourself. And then I look at people and no one cares. They do not care. It's like, I'm not even like a surprise anymore.
While Rehoboth is welcoming, residents know work still needs to be done when it comes to diversity of race and age.
We all feel very welcome here and happy here, but we can recognize that there is a shortage of melanin in the room. But that doesn't mean that, it's not open. And I just would have people to maybe think broader about coming and enjoying it.
H.L. Sudler covered the area for years as a writer for the Rehoboth Beach Gazette.
If you were unaccustomed to being the only African American in a room, it could be intimidating.
And turned some of his own experiences into novels.
A difference in race, a difference in class, a difference in money. It didn't come without that, it just evolved despite that and turned into something really very beautiful. When we go into the future, long after I'm gone, what will Rehoboth be? I think Rehoboth will still have organically its same makeup. It started as a haven, it continues as a haven, it will remain a haven.
This past year, I've seen more diversity in Rehoboth than ever before in the last 20 years. Welcome.
Wow.
Welcome to Truett Homestead.
Realtor Mitch Selberger says the pandemic brought a big shift here, bringing new residents from big cities who wanted to live here full-time.
Downtown Rehoboth Beach now is really $1 million and up, as is downtown Lewis. So we're seeing the surrounding areas anywhere from 3 to 5 miles, even 10 miles west or north of Rehoboth has really become a big area for new development.
A trend that keeps younger people from being able to buy here.
I think it's difficult for younger people just starting their careers.
It's something Tyler Townsend thinks about a lot, wanting to make sure Rehoboth Beach remains a destination for the next generation.
I grew up here.
Tyler has seen the decades of change, leaving his hometown for a Major League Baseball career. Now, the co-owner of several spots on Baltimore Avenue, including the happy hour hotspot Aqua.
Just having that past of growing up here and knowing it was a safe place in a community and with my family, that really encouraged me to be able to come out. I think it's going in the right direction.
So much joy, even on a Tuesday.
Yes, even on a Tuesday.
When we come back, the legacy of Rehoboth as we look beyond the boardwalk.
Progress is never final, and just because we have it doesn't mean we keep it.
There's no denying Rehoboth Beach has been a beacon, a safe space for the LGBTQ community over the decades, and now leaders are hoping to spread that support way beyond the boardwalk. Look around Rehoboth Beach and you're bound to find someplace or someone impacted by Camp Rehoboth's legacy. But when you look at your time with camp, what you and Steve built, did you accomplish, you think, what you set out to?
I do think it changed the town and the area around here, and yeah, I think it's had an impact.
Upstairs, second floor, is the apartment that Mary and Steve lived in.
Camp is still connecting different voices through culture, education, and communication.
This progress is never final, and just because we have it doesn't mean we keep it, and so we've got to keep working.
But there's still work to do.
Our work really is to finish what we've started here in Rehoboth Beach across all of southern Delaware, and that means out in the farm and rural areas.
This is the health suite. We offer testing in here. Offering resources such as HIV testing to those around the state. How does camp help to bring progress to the whole queer community? How are you bringing in people of color, trans people, women, into the fold?
Yeah, absolutely. To ensure that we are creating programs and services that service everyone. It's also making sure that, our board is representative, our staff is representative, and we've got some work to do.
What are you feeling in your heart and soul as you're walking down the streets of Rehoboth?
Free.
Tiffany Felder is an advocate working with CAMP to bridge gaps and provide more resources to trans people.
If you look around, you can see everything. Look how fun it looks. I don't really see enough, trans people.
And being seen is so important.
Yes, it's very important. You have to be seen, you have to be visible, but do they feel comfortable? That's the question. You see a lot of people, but I want to see more trans, and they're here.
Hi, Patricia. Because our work doesn't always have to be about orientation and identity. It can also be about how do we support everyone.
It's nice to hear people say that they appreciate what CAMP has done and they see that it has a place in history.
Rehoboth in itself, is Hebrew for all shall thrive here, or there's room for all. And no matter your sexual orientation or gender identity, I think that's what we all want. It's a message of peace and love, really.
Countless people over many years came together to make Rehoboth Beach what it is today. They stood up and raised their voices and joined hands to change this place, making it a city on the beach, accessible to everyone. As we wrap up our journey, I can see why this place has left such an imprint on so many people.
When you get close to Rehoboth Beach, you can feel the energy. It's sort of like, shh, this is our little secret. Don't tell anyone.
This town has changed me, definitely transformed me into someone who lives, in the present.
I have not met a person who's come here and spent more than a few hours here who does not fall in love.
It's what life should be like everywhere in this country. I want to be here forever.
So until next time, Rehoboth Beach, thanks for the warm welcome. We hope to be back on this road to Rehoboth soon.